Did you know that if you have an Amazon Prime account, you can link it to your Twitch and get a free sub to your favorite streamers, like Lat Mackey? So make sure to click that subscribe button and see if you have one available.
Okay. Allie is officially the best guest ever. She's invited back any single time she wants.
Good luck.
Hello, everybody. My name is Lat Mackey, and this is Sequence Break, episode 27, Power Up with Pride with Cellying. And here she is.
Hi.
Did I say that correctly? Cellying.
Yes,
Okay.
you did say that correctly.
I'm going to be referring to Cellying as Allie for most of this episode, just because that's the way I'm familiar with her and things like that. So as long as that's okay with you, that's what we're going to move forward with.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so we have a lot to get to, but first, why don't let's first just chat about a little bit of your history with video games. When did you start playing games? Kind of how did you grow up with video games?
So I've pretty much played games my whole life. I remember being really young, and I got my cousin's hand-me-down NES because my cousin is about, I don't know, like 15 years older than me, and so. By the time I was, old enough to play video games and stuff, is I could just get handed down the NES. And so I got the NES and all of their games. And so I started playing. I'm pretty sure my first game ever was original, Super Mario 1, Super Mario Bros. On NES.
Good games.
So I'd play that a lot. I'd play Duck Hunt a lot. And I actually had Ninja Gaiden as a kid, surprisingly enough. And even as a kid, I knew, I would play it, and I was like, oh man, this movement's really cool. But I didn't like the game at all.
I gotta tell you, I feel a little bit about that. I've really struggled with the controls for Ninja Gaiden, even today as an adult and as a speedrunner. And I there's just something about there. It's awesome. It's amazing because there's not really a game like it. But just getting to master those controls is really challenging for me.
Oh yeah, I mean the movement. I really like the movement in Ninja Gaiden. I think it's really cool, how you can climb walls and jump off stuff and all that. But, obviously I didn't realize it as a kid, and I looking back, I realize it now, but it was so, a lot of NES games are way more dynamic than
Right.
Ninja Gaiden. Like Mario. You play Mario, and there are so many different gameplay elements compared to something like Ninja Gaiden where it's just, you move right, you jump, you slash.
It sounds like you were aware of that as a kid. What kept bringing you back then to Ninja Gaiden or these other? What kept you playing the games?
So I never beat Mario 1 as a kid. I would always get to whatever castle it was that had the maze, where you have to you have the three paths.
Is that 6 or 7? It's one of the later ones, but I know which one you're talking about. Yes.
Yeah, because I learned about the skips, obviously, the warps, but I never got past that castle. That always had trouble for me. But there was just something about it was this really weird thing, because when I was a kid growing up, my house essentially had 2 living rooms, but one was in the back of the house. And so that was basically my room to do watch TV or play video games or whatever. So I had the NES hooked up, and I would just sit on this coffee table, on the edge of it, and just play Mario or Duck Hunt or something.
Oh, that's awesome to have a whole room just for the gaming. Did you ever? I mean, was there a point where did you ever try out or venture into more modern games, or were you kind of a retro person?
So as I got a little older, I got a Super Nintendo.
Oh, cool.
And I never really. So this is gonna sound crazy, but I never really played Mario World. I was not a Mario World person.
And you had Super Nintendo?
Yeah. I was not a Mario World person. See, but even today, I'm not a Mario World person. I'm a Mario 3 person.
There you go. Thumbs up on that.
But the thing that got me hooked on Super Nintendo, and this is probably gonna shock everyone ever to ever hear this, is a game called Porky Pig's Haunted Holiday. And people probably haven't even heard of that game.
No, I didn't even know that was a game.
But it is a game called Porky Pig's Haunted Holiday. And you basically what it is it's the premise is you're Porky Pig, and you have a nightmare, and you go into this nightmare world. And you go if you go through all these places this haunted forest and this Wild West town and stuff like that. And basically you have to beat your nightmares. But it's just I had that game as a kid, and it frustrated me to no end. It was the most frustrating game, but I loved it. And then as I got a little bit older, I started going to arcades. And I started playing I play like House of the Dead. I loved House of the Dead.
Good game.
It's one of my favorite
Yeah,
games.
it's really fun.
Started playing as I got a little older, started playing like DDR and stuff. I like fighting games, but I never really got into them in the arcade sense.
My challenge, okay, so first of all, Easy Games has actually heard of it. I don't know if you might be the only person who's actually heard of that game, Easy. Just saying. I enjoyed like Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter, but I was not nearly as good as everybody else that I would play against. And just getting destroyed all the time definitely hindered my enjoyment a little bit of the game. And I don't know if you had a similar experience, but...
A little bit.
But then... Go ahead.
I was going to say, and then around like PS2 era... was when Toonami started being afternoon Toonami, and they would show Dragon Ball Z. So all my friends and me got into Dragon Ball Z, and so we started playing Budokai on PS2.
I haven't heard about that.
Fueled video games for a while.
Is that like an anime type game? I'm not familiar with it.
Dragon Ball Z Budokai?
Yeah. Oh, it was a Dragon Ball Z game. Okay, gotcha. I should know that.
Yeah, I should have said that.
Yeah, no, it's okay. I'm not too... See, this is where... here's where the internet leaves me behind. I apologize. Yes, I'm the old man, but I struggle with... I don't know anime very well, so I feel like I miss a lot of the memes and culture sometimes of Twitch. It's a fighting anime. Okay, thank you, Bronzette. I appreciate that.
Yeah, so... it was a series of Dragon Ball Z games where you would have like big like open spaces to fight in, like from the anime. They made 5 of them.
Oh man!
Because there's Budokai 1, 2, 3, Budokai Tenkaichi, and then I think Budokai Tenkaichi 2 or Raging Blast or something.
Bronzette is telling me this is one of the most popular fighting games. Of course it is, and that's that doesn't surprise me at all that I'm missing it. Why don't I know it? I should know it. Okay, well there you go. Of course. Well, awesome. Okay, so at some point, when do you discover, or when are you familiar with the speedrunning community? Have you ever seen speedruns? Would you mind just maybe giving me a little brief history of your experience with the speedrunning?
Okay, so as far as I can remember, how I got introduced to speedrunning is I kind of like slightly knew about it, just from from a cultural standpoint. And then I used to watch a content creator called Azurite Reaction, or Dez, if anyone knows them. And I was watching their stream one night, and they rated a person called Tokyo Scarab, who was doing Mario Paint Bob Ross.
That's awesome.
And so I started watching Tokyo Scarab. And Tokyo Scarab at the time was a Mega Man X speedrunner. Would do like kind of like challenge speedruns, like Buster only and stuff like that. And so I became friends with them, and that kind of got me into speedrunning a little more, and I started meeting more people and stuff like that. And then I met some people from the Super Metroid community and started being friends with them, and I would start like playing the game a lot and doing like randomizers and races and stuff like that.
I tried to do a little bit of research before we have any guest for the podcast. I noticed you do have a couple of credits to your title on speedrun.com's profile. Was Super Metroid kind of some of the first speedruns you attempted yourself? Had you done any other type of speedrunning yourself or trying that out?
I tried out Super Metroid a little bit. I really do enjoy the game. I enjoy the movement tech in it. The entire I'll call it the physics engine of Super Metroid is really good, what you're able to do with it. It's just that game has a really high skill cap.
That is an understatement.
And so I really started moving towards just doing like randomizer races or doing hacks.
There are so many awesome and wonderful randomizers for that game. One of the things that I think probably like yourself, I had saw Super Metroid runs on the internet, on Twitch, on Games Done Quick, all those kind of places, and I didn't realize how technical, because speedrunners make it look so easy. And when I saw somebody play it in person and they're pressing all these fingers are moving while they're playing, I couldn't believe the amount of technical ability it takes to play the game at a high level.
Oh yeah, it has. it has a lot of a lot of like, what's the word? Just like hand ability.
Yes,
for it.
Totally agree.
The weird thing about me is, like, anytime I play like retro games and stuff, I do not use a controller. I use keyboard. I'm a keyboard person.
Oh man, you're doing keyboard.
I know that might sound, kind of like, whoa.
My respect level just got raised. It just went up a little bit.
There's something about I don't like D-pads.
Okay.
There's something about me that doesn't like D-pads.
Sure.
So on keyboards, all the arrow keys are separate. It's completely separate cardinal directions. And that really like meshes with my brain better. And apparently, I don't know, like I play like Japanese PC stuff does, where you use like Z, X, and C for your stuff. That's what I've heard, at least.
No, I'm glad you mentioned that. So I was doing tech for an event earlier this year, and it was a Japanese runner who was playing Mega Man X, one of the X games, and it's the first time I'd ever seen somebody play it at keyboard, especially at that high level. It was like it was impressive. I just sat there and watched for an hour because it was so impressive what they're able to do. And you're right, they use different button layouts, which I thought was crazy too. That just blew my mind. So it's really cool stuff. That's awesome. So how do we go from all of this, these communities? It's awesome that you're joining these communities, part of these communities. How do you go from there to wanting to to power up with Pride? What's the journey from getting there to an actual hosting an event?
Okay, so that's like a two-part story. Like, there's two parts to that.
Good.
So we'll do the easy part first.
Okay.
The easy part is, I'm starting to get into speedrunning, and hanging out with these people and seeing like events and stuff like that. And I start to notice a disparity on kind of like demographics and stuff with speedrunning and with Twitch in general as a platform. For anyone that's been on Twitch for a while, you know that if you look at charity content, there's one major field of charity on Twitch. And it's not bad, but it's just, that's how it is cancer.
That's right.
Most charity events on Twitch are cancer related, like St. Jude and stuff like that. And then you have like, that's the big one. And the other ones are like, stuff like, like MS, like multiple sclerosis, or Doctors Without Borders, stuff like that. And it's just, the charity spectrum of Twitch was not very diverse whatsoever around this time, which was like, I think 2016. I'm bad at remembering years.
Some time ago in the past.
Yes. Most at this point in time, most of the charity things happening on Twitch were based around like St. Jude or cancer research, etc. And so that was the thing I noticed. I was like, man, people really aren't doing charity for a lot of other things on this platform. And so that's part one. And then part two was, I noticed that I had started looking at like GDQ and stuff, and I had noticed that some of these some of these events and stuff like that were kind of not super comforting for certain people.
Yeah.
If that's a way to put it.
Yeah, no, it's okay. I mean, there was something missing. They weren't as inclusive as perhaps you would.
Inclusive, that's a good word.
Yeah. No, I know exactly what you're getting at. I don't think, I totally understand where you're coming from.
Yeah, and I don't think it's wholly like on the events or anything. It's definitely like part of the things where you have a certain, it's one of those things where if you have a certain thing, right? Like speedrunning, for example. You have speedrunning. And then you build something off of that. Obviously, things that are added in later are going to be a little more contentious.
Sure, absolutely.
Whereas if you build something from the ground up with other things in mind, it's a little better.
I always make the argument that it's probably unintentional, but it's just the way that some of these things, just like you're saying, the way that they perpetuate and they grow, and this is what happens. So there are definitely deficiencies, as you say earlier.
Yeah. And so, you combine those two things about the events with the charities, and then we get into the other part, which is, so through speedrunning, I end up meeting a whole bunch of new people, and I become friends with, as they are named in chat, XCOGs. And it turns out a whole bunch of us are in Ohio. And so so a bunch of people start putting together a speedrunning event for Ohio. And we, a bunch of us go to it and we're all hanging out and stuff like that. And I start talking to Cogs, about this stuff that I've been thinking about. And it basically just was like, why don't we just do something?
How simple.
I mean, it's kind of one of those hindsight things, but it's like, it kind of is that simple. I mean, obviously, like, work goes into it and stuff, but for anyone out there, if you just sit down and, put your mind to something, you can do it.
I love the fact that it is that simple. And I'm curious, was there any, could you see ahead? Did you know or have any idea about what it takes to run an event or a marathon at this point? Okay.
No, not at all. It was a big learning process.
When you all decided to start Power Up with the Pride, did you know that you wanted it to be a charity event? Was there any kind of that in mind when you okay? And did you have a charity in mind when you were originally? Like, was there one that you wanted to support?
No,
okay.
Not a specific charity.
Got it.
But we knew what we wanted the basis to be. Actually, the initial kind of like idea for the first Power Up was kind of more like St. Jude, kind of how they run their stuff on Twitch.
Yeah, totally.
Where it was, you had a channel and then, people just had segments where they did content. It wasn't necessarily like speedrunning focused and stuff. Like, it had some of that, but it was more like freeform.
That's one thing I know. One thing when I first submitted for the marathon, I noticed right away that you guys weren't just looking for speed runs. And I'm curious, I wasn't around for the first one. So was the first one like that too, where you were looking for ways to just highlight the community? Was that kind of the original intent, or is that something that developed over time?
A little bit of both.
Okay.
Obviously it had part of like people who were like, trying to like, were helping us, and stuff like that. And then there was other people like myself who were like, trying to uplift a message and stuff like that.
So, what would if you were somebody were to ask you, hey, what is Power Up with the Pride? How would you describe your event?
Gosh, that's hard. I guess like a charity event that is firstly focused on supporting the LGBTQ plus community and speedrunning second.
I as an outsider, I totally couldn't agree with you more on that. I always look at it, every time I've watched the event or I've participated in it, it feels like it's this celebration of pride at the same time. People, especially the people who are performing in it, the runners, almost everyone, there's so many personal stories that get shared during the event. I mean, sometimes it breaks your heart, it brings tears to your eyes, but it seems all in celebration of trying to promote the community. And I'm not sure if that was the intent or if you feel that way about it at all, but I know that's what I get as a viewer of the event.
I mean, I think it's definitely awesome that it evolved into something like that, where it's just this big like community kind of staple where we all get together,
It's very cool. I'm sorry, good.
No, I was just gonna say, so I like that part.
Can you tell us a little bit about the charity that you've been supporting the last couple of events, the Trevor Project? How did you settle on that charity?
So the reason we ended up going with the Trevor Project after a bit was they have they're really nationally focused. They try to push big picture stuff, and they really they're really involved in a lot of aspects, from super low key stuff. Like they have helplines and crisis lines and stuff like that, or resources and stuff like that. And then they try to push they try to affect political stuff and legislation,
advocacy.
So it's yes,
yeah,
big picture.
It's funny or it's not funny. It's interesting that you mentioned early on about, there were a lot of cancer type events, and I've worked in cancer for a long time. And I'm kind of familiar with that world. And I got to say, one of the things I discovered and really appreciate about the Trevor Project is that they are most definitely saving lives as well. And I thought they're doing it in such an interesting way. And like you're pointing out, they touch a lot of different aspects that may affect the LGBTQ plus community. And I found that just wonderful and heartwarming at the same time. And I think that's why it's such a great charity to support and to have as kind of your marquee charity that you're going to support with the event.
Definitely. Definitely. I think they do a lot of good.
I couldn't agree with you more. Let's see. How much? Do you know how much you've raised for charity at this point with the event?
Here, I can do that math real quick.
Oh. Vamp. I mean, what? So the first one was in 2016 or 17,
something like that.
Oh wow, XCOG is saying maybe over 75,000. Holy cow!
It's a lot.
Wow, I had no idea it was that much. That's crazy.
30.
We are doing the math. This is exciting.
Somewhere around 60K.
Whoa. What does it take to put on an event like this? Like how many, what's happening behind the scenes at this point?
Currently?
Yeah, exactly. Currently, how many people are involved?
Okay. So for the most recent, it's definitely a lot more, we definitely have it a lot more to a point of, I guess I would say, automation. We have a lot of groundwork placed now to make things easier, more flowy, stuff like that. Obviously, we have. Gosh, let me check the numbers. Probably have in the range of 10 staff.
Oh wow.
And that's not including team members and stuff like that. So it's a lot of, so obviously we have a lot of back-end computer stuff. We have entire, we have servers set up and stuff like that. We have, web hosts,
right, stuff
like that. All these things, all these computer things set up to just completely use over and over and over again. We have, what's the word? We basically have a defined graphic style at this point.
Oh, good, yeah.
Where it can be morphed and stuff like that. So the art aspect is definitely a lot easier compared to earlier years.
In the marketing world, we sometimes refer to that as branding and things like that, where you have a style guide and all that kind of stuff that you can just share freely and stuff like that. Very cool.
Yeah.
Did it start out that way? What was the original? Was it just just a couple of you?
So at the very beginning, it was me, Cogs, and a person who at the time went by Automatic Jack, I think. I haven't talked to them in years. Have no idea what's going on with them anymore. But it was basically, it was the three of us. Automatic was doing the art and stuff like that, and the design mostly. And I was doing I don't even remember what I was doing. I was doing what's the word? Busy work, basically. I should say busy work.
The day-to-day.
Yes. And stuff like that. And it was very janky. Janky is a good word for it. It was very low tech.
But you got it off the ground, and I think that's the one of the most important parts. Had that not happened, we wouldn't have what we have today.
Big true. It was one of you could definitely tell it was really small, starting from nothing, right, stuff like that. But I think the thing that really pushed it was the spirit of it.
Yeah.
And you could tell the effort that was put into it and stuff like that.
Oh, most definitely. I think if that kind of passion doesn't come through, then there's a good chance people aren't going to watch and latch on and things like that.
Because
Good.
my thing for Power Up has always been, I always want to make an event that I know that I would enjoy. That's one of my big things, is I want something that I know people have fun watching.
I love that.
You know,
that makes a lot of sense watching it. Good.
And so it's not necessarily like, Power Up isn't necessarily like, oh, this is, this person is the best Mega Man player in the world ever. Watch them absolutely crush this. No. It's like watch this person play this random Turbo Graphics game that no one's ever heard of.
It's true. Yes.
And make jokes in chat.
Yes, exactly. And meme out, if you will.
Yes.
What are some, can you, over the course of these last few years, can you think of any highlights or some runs or just some moments in the event that have really stick out to you as ones that you remember?
A couple of my favorite ones are definitely, so something we've been doing since one of the earlier events was a community segment. Because I thought that was fun. There's always one time slot in the schedule where it's a community segment, and we just get to do a bunch of stuff together and have fun. The community segment has been things from a blind race of a McDonald's game on the Genesis to we did a session of a tabletop RPG. But one of my favorite ones was we did Family Feud as a community segment. We made teams and we did Family Feud.
So great.
That one was really fun. I really enjoyed, I think this was the last event or the event before that, but we did a big Link to the Past randomizer crowd control.
Oh, cool.
And I think that was really fun.
Oh
yeah. One of the community events we did was I think it was before the marathon. We did like a 4-way race of, I think it was Apple II Oregon Trail.
The classic that is Apple II Oregon Trail in all its green glory.
That tells you anything about the event. The event had a point where we raced Oregon Trail on the Apple II.
The quality content you could expect. No, it's really, that's actually awesome. I remember seeing that. That was so much fun.
But yeah, we got to work with the crowd control people directly, and we did I think it was either a 3-way or a 4-way Link to the Past crowd control randomizer race, and that was really fun to see.
It was a few episodes ago now, but Jakku was on the podcast, and I love seeing something like that for a charity event because besides it raises a great amount of money for the charity, it's also, they're really fun to watch. It's just fun seeing a runner get destroyed in crowd control.
Oh, definitely.
We have a lot of fans of the Oregon Trail apparently in chat.
Another one of my favorites was we had a runner named Starwin, who is a survival horror runner.
Cool.
Who did we had a, what's the word? Donation incentive. I couldn't think of the word. Donation incentive to do a duo run.
Oh yeah.
So basically what it is you know Silent Hill, the series, right?
Yes. Never played it, but very familiar with it.
So there are 2 games in the Silent Hill series that are not very good. Silent Hill Homecoming and Silent Hill Downpour. Silent Hill Downpour has a lot of cutscenes and a lot of downtime. So what Starwin did was ran both of the games at the same time, playing Homecoming during the cutscenes of Downpour.
That is so cool.
And so I got to be part of the commentary for that, and just talk about the series and stuff. So that was one of my favorites.
How long did that take to finish? That's such a cool idea.
It basically falls. They end about the same time because of the time disparities and stuff.
Got it. The cutscenes are that crazy. Wow.
Yes.
It was a
Downpour is a very slow-paced game, and it is not very good.
It doesn't sound like it. That much cutscene. Sounds like it could be a little rough. What can we expect at this year's event, which is coming up this weekend? If you're listening to this podcast, it's literally this weekend. If this is June 9th.
Yes, if you're watching this podcast anytime between June 8th and June 11th, Power with Pride is coming up Friday, June 12th. It'll run the whole weekend.
Join us.
You can check it out on Twitter at Power with Pride. This event, there are a lot of weird games. We have a lot of weird games in this one. Let me pull up the schedule.
I should have had that up myself. I don't know why I didn't bother to pull it up.
We have a good amount of weird games. Schedule.
Well, it starts off with Momodora. So there you go. Or Momodora. Am I saying that incorrectly?
I've heard of the game. I don't know how you pronounce it. I assume it's Momodora.
Embrace the weird. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. We have a lot of weird games. We have something called I Am Fish, which I don't even think is in full release yet. It's in like a demo state.
Cool.
So that's an interesting one. James Bond: The Duel for Sega Genesis. That's probably not a very good game.
Sonic R, which don't see Sonic R very often. Good.
One of the games I'm actually really excited for is we got King's Quest V in. If anyone's a big Sierra adventure game fan.
I played that. I played the original King's Quest so much as a kid. That was like one of the first PC games I had.
King's Quest V is, I think, probably personally, I think it's the best King's Quest.
Really?
I think it's a really good King Graham one.
I'm wondering, I guess it must be available on GOG or something if if people are running it. So cool.
I don't know how it's available right now.
That PC? Okay, 1990 is when King's Quest V came out. Geez, they already had 5 of them by the time 1990 rolled around. It's crazy.
We have Speaking Simulator in, if anyone's seen Speaking Simulator. That's an interesting one. Also have Step Mania. That'll be interesting.
Is that is that what it sounds like? Do you play with as trying to make steps or something?
Step Mania is a rhythm game.
Ah, there we go. Gotcha.
It's like the PC version of DDR, basically.
Oh, cool. Very cool. And then ending with a Link's Awakening run. So, what a great way to... Oh, Celeste and Link's... Look at Shantae, we had a strong closing as well.
Yes, all very comfy games.
Absolutely. I'm obviously super excited to watch and to participate. If you don't mind, a question for you. So when I first found the event, I know there hasn't been enough questions, right? I am an ally to the community, and I wasn't quite sure how I could support or get involved. And I'm curious if you wouldn't mind just speaking a little bit, what is the importance of allies to the community and to the event, and how can somebody like myself get involved if they wanted to?
So I think one of the big things is that, with any marginalized community, is like their voices and stuff are kind of suppressed, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
So one of the things you see that's bad is like other people trying to speak for marginalized communities. Don't do that. What you want to do is you want to help so their voices aren't suppressed. You want to uplift them and put marginalized people in the spotlight. Obviously, you can donate to charities. You can help shift the public paradigm of stuff. Like, I see a lot of people putting pronouns in their Twitter bios. And that's definitely people are normalizing, pronoun use and stuff like that.
I think that's such an interesting point you bring up, especially with what's currently happening in the United States and all these kind of things, that an ally can amplify firsthand experiences, things that really push the community forward, but also amplify the message that we're trying to get out there about like you're saying, a marginalized community such as the LGBTQ+ community. So I think that's such an easy. It seems so simple and easy, and I think it's a wonderful way. I'm glad to hear you say that. That's a great way to show some support.
Yeah, definitely with mirroring with what you're talking about with the current events going on and stuff like that. Is like, if you know, people having a platform, you know, open your platform up to you know, amplify voices for people and stuff.
I excuse me. Whoa, excuse me. I really appreciated also also submit and volunteer for future prep. There you go. That's a good
That is true.
Just volunteer for future events. This is great. I appreciated how welcoming the community was. Also, the event, just for I gotta be honest, I was a bit nervous about, because I had never volunteered, or I'm sorry, I had never participated in an event like this that was really so forward thinking about shining the spotlight on a community. So I appreciated how welcoming it was, and it still is to this day, it seems.
Yeah. It's one of those things where, speaking earlier, where, you know, certain things are built on a certain foundation and then things coming in later is a little, you know.
Yeah.
So with Power with Pride, you know, it was built wholly around being a community-based thing and being welcoming and friendly and stuff like that. And so, you know, starting with that basis, you know, it has just, you know, added on to it. And it's done a really good job to, you know, like kind of like push away like toxicness and stuff like that.
That's so funny. So the DNA of your event has kept out the toxic, and I think that's so. It says a lot about you and the entire group that puts on the event. I think that says a lot about it. That's awesome. A lot of math talk. Is it okay? I gotta ask. Is it really tough to put the pieces together, so everyone, the scheduling and stuff like that?
So, scheduling, because that's actually like that's one of my like big things I do now, because obviously, you know, with the event growing and stuff like that, you know, responsibilities kind of like get chunked away and stuff like that and spread out. So one of the big things I always try to do is you know, really make a dent in the schedule. Because I don't know, I like doing games list, and I like doing schedule, and it might sound weird, but games list is so schedule is basically you have this much time in the weekend, and so you try to get close to that much time in runs. But then it's like Tetris, but you already have all the pieces.
So you have to make it work.
Yes, you have to make them fit together.
Ria's cracking me up. Sorry for bringing up what appears to be a sensitive topic. Of all the things we've talked about, that's the sensitive topic, is the schedule. Oh, of course. You're right. You have that, but you're right. It's not just runs. It's volunteers. It's staff. It's all the tech, you know, that goes on behind the scenes. That makes a lot of sense. Do you do all the scheduling for that as well?
No.
Okay.
I'm much better at working with the schedule for runners.
Got it.
Because you have and you know, unless things come up, it's pretty like clear cut. But so scheduling all the runs and stuff like that, it's just like Rhea said, it's like a jigsaw puzzle. You already have all the pieces, and you know they all fit. You just gotta figure out where.
Well, that's one of the things that struck me. I think maybe it was 2018, the first one that I participated in, and I was really impressed and real just to how professional everything was. Like, I know that kind of like smooth running type of event takes a ton of work on the back end, but for those of us that were running or participating in it, it was very smooth. The tech was awesome. Everyone was on time. Everything was just really well run, and I'm really impressed by all that. It is
definitely a lot of skill and dedication from the people that do the tech stuff, for sure. They're very good at what they do.
Please don't look behind their curtain. Hides duct tape with your foot. I can only imagine.
The people that do the behind the scenes stuff for Power with Pride are very good at what they do.
I can only imagine. You good?
No.
So They hide the duct tape. They hid the duct tape. See, there you go. Exactly. Okay. So what do you see as, what do you see as the future for this event? I know it takes a tremendous amount of work from you all. I do see after the event all the tweets about you guys are going to sleep for a week. You're going to just, try to recover from this whole thing. What do you see for the future of this of the event?
And with that, with the tweets and stuff, is like it is definitely a tiring process. Obviously, putting any event together is a lot of like work. But it's also one of those things where it's always felt like you get it done and you feel so good, and it's like, oh, I don't have to do anything. And then you get like 2 months down the road, and you're like, oh, the next one though, the next one's gonna be hype. But no, it's like as for the future, I mean, it'll probably just kind of not change too much. We've thought about we've had discussions in the past about obviously like possible like on-site stuff. Like in-person stuff.
Yeah.
But obviously online is way more accessible. It's way easier. So but definitely with like the accessibility of it, people, because there's people who can't travel or, stuff like that. It's like it really makes it easier for the community to participate.
Absolutely. There's about a 2-month break in between the events. So you guys start planning the next event about 2 months after the Pride event will be finished?
I mean, the beginning discussions are kind of just like, they're kind of like random.
Oh, this is a good question. Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead, please.
So it could start, we could start talking about it again like 2 months or 3 months or something like that. Not like anything like super like defined or anything like that.
This could be just my perception, but I still feel like Power Up has this kind of unique. There's not a whole lot of events. In fact, there's really nothing like it, I think, still in our charity marathon space. I think it's great. We've seen more events pop up that should support LGBTQ community, but sorry, I can't even talk. It's a lot of letters in my head, and I'm very bad with names. So, but I still feel like the Power Up is still this unique event in the space.
Yeah, that is definitely one of the things that like I'm like personally like really proud of, is because talk like from earlier, the charity space on Twitch was very is homogenized the good word?
Yeah.
It was very
a lot of cancer. I mean, it's to be blunt about it. Yes, I completely agree.
Yeah, there wasn't, there really was not like, LGBTQ, charity streams. And so, someone from another event from Edge Case Collective was talking about the other day is like, Power Up kind of like laid that groundwork to really push that.
I completely agree, and I think it highlights also the importance of the event that we have seen other. I've also seen individuals running their own, charity streams just to supporting Trevor Project. Like I love seeing the fact that Trevor Project is out there. That's obviously you guys have amplified it on Twitch, which I think is wonderful. Rhea has a great question. Have you thought about moving to a charity with a more international focus, or one that perhaps might be more inclusive? Because in the speedrunning community, as we know, there are many of us all around, or in the retro community as well, all around the world. It's not just here in the States.
I will say that charity selection is I feel like charity selection is tougher than the scheduling. Charity selection has a lot of thought to go in it.
Right.
And especially with like where we're at now with Trevor Project having been, we've made started a really good basis with Trevor Project and stuff, and have had it for a couple of years now. I feel like looking into something bigger would take a lot of attention and stuff like that.
I've had the Calithon folks and also MC join me on the podcast, and I love how much thought process and why it when picking a charity. I love that the common theme with all of you has been that that's a really important part to what you do, and you want to vet the charity. You want to make sure this is a cause worth supporting, and I really appreciate when I hear that you guys take the time to do those kind of things. I think it's great.
Yes, because it's because when you find a really good charity like Trevor Project, it's one of those things where it's a lot safer to not like super move out of that space.
Yeah.
Because then it's
good.
Because you do have to, you have to look at a lot of stuff and how the charity functions and what they do and stuff like that.
And I would also mention too that there's nothing preventing a European speedrunner or somebody to submit a run to the event. I mean, I don't think that you guys don't have any. Is there any? Is it? Yeah, it's not.
I mean, anyone can submit as long as you can mostly adhere to the schedule.
Yeah. There's so much great stuff. I think we've covered a lot of it. Is there? I mean, you mentioned this event isn't planning to stop anytime soon.
No.
How leading up to this, how much work are you putting in? Is it kind of is it nearly a daily thing, or what kind of effort does it take leading up to the event?
I guess it really depends. It depends on who you're talking to, with how we split things up and stuff like that. So like, there are some things where it's, where people are doing things daily. They're talking to runners and answering questions and stuff like that. And there's other stuff where like, what's the word? Like me, is like I was doing voting on, games and doing the schedule and stuff like that. I'm going to be like, moderating like chat and stuff like that. So it's like, I'm not doing as much daily stuff. Or like some of the tech stuff is like there, so that's not like being worked on daily.
The Power Up Discord seems like to me like it could be a 24-hour a day job, just answering all the questions and things like that. Because also, and honestly, like I get every time I had a question, the response was like instant. Like I was really impressed with how quickly you're able to respond to people. But it's also a friendly place to hang out, if you will, if you're looking this way.
With our like Q&A stuff from like runners and stuff like that, the people we have on our team are very, very good at like answering questions and stuff like that.
Modding the Discord is a whole thing. XCOGs, I can only imagine. Not a bad thing, right. But definitely a thing. I mean, it seems like it would have to take quite a bit of people just to get it working that way. No, Ria, thank you so much for the question. It was great. Is there anything else I'm missing? I feel like we've covered quite a bit, and I feel like I already have a better appreciation for the event just speaking with you.
Let's see here.
We got the behind the scenes, the charity, the how it started.
Oh, what were my favorite games growing up?
Yes. You read. Actually, I was going to go there. I was going to ask if your great games growing up and then if you play any of them today.
So a lot of my favorite games growing up. So I have like a weird, like my journey through gaming is weird. Because I went NES, Super Nintendo, and then PlayStation. I went to PlayStation 1. And then I didn't get a PlayStation 2, I got a GameCube.
Well,
and then I got
a good thing.
And then I got a computer at home.
Oh, cool.
And so this is going to sound weird, but some of my favorite games growing up were edutainment games that I played at the computer at school.
The edutainment. I can see the Oregon Trail now.
Like old Math Blasters.
Oh, there you go.
Or a lot of Learning Company games, stuff like that. Sierra games. And then one of my favorite games for GameCube actually wasn't Smash. And I never really played Smash with other people. This is going to sound weird, but I didn't really play Smash with other people because how me and my friends were. Like, because what we would do when I was growing up is me and my friends, we'd go outside and do stuff all day. So, when we would, like our video games and stuff is like, that's when we were home, by ourselves, basically. And so one of my favorite games on GameCube was this mech fighter, and I don't remember what it was called.
GameCube mech fighter game. If anybody can think of that in the chat, remember
Custom Robo. It was called Custom Robo.
Okay, never heard of that one.
And it was like you could customize your mech, and you would do arena. Like you would have like an arena, and you would fight. But if anyone ever asked me like what my favorite games are, is Halo and World of Warcraft, and they're tied for the #1 spot.
With the current WoW, are you playing Classic or what's your current World of Warcraft?
Yes.
Okay.
I play both retail and Classic.
Oh, nice. Okay, very cool. It's always been...
For anyone wondering out there, I play on Kel'Thuzad on retail, at Alliance. And on Classic, I'm Alliance Pagel.
I have been okay. So World of Warcraft has always kind of scared me because I just feel like my wife doesn't play video games, so it's like I could just see like me spending all my time doing that. I'd be afraid of it, the whole thing. But but it looks so much fun. It looks like you all have so much a good time playing these games.
I will say, it is definitely very easy to get lost in an MMO. I have been playing WoW since late 2005.
Wow, it's been around that long. That's crazy.
In retail WoW, I currently have 9 max level characters.
That is awesome.
4 of them are geared enough to be raid viable.
That is so cool. Okay, sorry.
I play the game a lot.
XCOM, can't imagine balancing an event, running an event, and playing MMOs.
Yeah, says the Final Fantasy 14 nerd.
That's all XCOM. No, I shouldn't say that's all, but I gotta say, XCOM, you do tweet quite a bit about the Final Fantasy 14. So I wonder at the same time, how are you all running the event and playing these games at the same time? I'm just saying. Just saying.
Playing 14 right now. Not
a surprise, right? Well, okay, so let's do... Okay, I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say, honestly, it's WoW. WoW is easily one of those games. I don't know how 14 is, but WoW is definitely a thing where you can multitask while playing it.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Which can be dangerous.
You have no idea how I still follow you. Well, I need the great. How do I know what's going on in Final Fantasy 14 unless I'm following you? So I'm trying to be better about my internet memes, but what can I do? Okay, so let's do this. Where can we find the event? Where can we find out all the information? If you want to get involved and just at least watch, what can you do to do that?
You can find us on Twitter at Power Up with Pride, which is at PWER Up with Pride, or on Twitch, twitch.tv/Power Up with Pride, full words.
I would also say it's easy to get to the website, which is spelled out. It was actually fully spelled out, if I remember correctly.
Yes,
okay.
Or you can find us at powerupwithpride.org.
Awesome. And if somebody wanted to bother you on Twitter, do you have a Twitter? Is there anything you'd like to throw out there?
If you actually want to bother me, my Twitter is at the screen name on the screen right there.
There you go. 2 Y's, Cellying, which is awesome. Ali, thank you so much for talking about this and giving us a little bit of history. This is so great, actually learning about how this... I'm always curious how this thing comes about, because what we see is it looks so polished. It looks like it's, it's been around for years. It's so professional. I can't imagine it just got to take millions of hours to actually have that happen.
It's one of those things where it's kind of funny to look at it now. Because in the beginning, I would joke around, and Cogs can, confirm this and stuff. I'd be like, I could joke around like, speedrunning events, we're coming for you. We're going to take over the space. And now we're a big speedrunning event. I know, so.
Right? There you go. Oh, don't tell me life doesn't have a sense of humor, okay? You did not expect this, also.
Honestly, it was just one of those things where it's like, hey, let's do this thing. And we did the thing.
That's so awesome. That's how simple it is, and that but because it means. One of the things I love about the whole weekend is just how much it means to people to watch or to participate or to even have an event that people feel like represents themselves. And I literally can't watch it without getting goosebumps and getting choked up. I end up being a little bit of a mess when I'm watching the thing because it's just so heartwarming to see it. It's really great.
Heck yeah. I will say, word of advice to anyone out there: if you're afraid of, following your ambitions or, really pushing a project you want to work on, there was one day where I just sat down and talked to Cogs and was like, let's just do it. And now it's an event that we've worked with, the Yeti to get, official t-shirts done. We've been on the front page of Twitch. We've raised, like $60,000 for charity.
Insane.
All because one day I said, let's just do it.
Oh, well, I thank you for doing that. I'm glad it was that simple, and that you decided to just go do it. I'm thankful that it's there, and thank you so much for the time. I appreciate it. Thanks, everyone, for listening and watching. If you're enjoying the podcast, subscribe, leave a review. All those things go a long way to helping out the podcast. If you'd like to continue the conversation, I'm on Twitter @LatMackey, or you can also join the LatMackey Discord, where we have a sequence break channel. We talk about guests, we have questions. It's really interactive, really fun. Please feel free to stop on by. Thanks so much. See you in the next one.